Hey, this is Nicolosi, and in this video, I'm going to show you how you can use the new Matrix module to quickly and easily create complex FM patches. But at first, I want to give you a background story. Here I'm running Logic Pro on my Mac, and I have inserted NFM synth as an instrument, and I have a Mela MIDI arpeggiating the chords I have on this track. NFM synth is one of my earlier AUV3 plugins. It's an FM synthesizer, and the reason its interface looks the way it does is because it was designed for the early AUV3 window size for the iPad. It has two main views. One is operators, and then the second is effects and output. This contains modulators and some audio effects. But on the main page, we have operators, and NFM has 6 operators, A to F, and you can select them to view them. Each operator is simply a sinusoid or can be noise, but most of the time you want it to be a sinusoid, and each of those have their own envelopes, and that's what gives it its power, because each operator has independent envelope. That means they're modulating each other at different intensities over time, so you'll get a nice, rich, evolving timbre. The way you set the modulations is using this FM algorithm. So you have A, B, C, D, E, F on the diagonal here, and then you have these numbers which indicate the modulation intensity. So for example, A to E, it's set to 46. That's the modulation intensity with which A is modulating E. And you can also have like feedback modulation. For example, E is modulating B here with a 7 intensity. So, and then you can add more if you want to just drag it up or down to remove it. And so this module makes it easy to create complex patches very fast. The App Store is now full of FM AUV3 plugins, and NFM has its own loyal following because of this module. And that's what inspired me to create a module that mimics this behavior but integrates well with Mela. So let's play this and hear what this sounds like. Okay, now let's look at the Mela module. It's called Matrix. It can have up to 7 operators. Well, I should say it can have up to 7 nodes, and each of those nodes is a submodule. And of course, you're not limited to having FM operators as submodules. You can have anything in there. And that's what makes this Matrix very powerful. You can use it all sorts of ways. And there are quite a few presets that I've added to this update, which you can check it out. They're all mentioned in the changelog. This is one of the presets, one of the patches called FM keys. And let's hear what this sounds like with the same arpeggiating chords. And we can look at it here that if we have a node B selected, and its direct submodule is a lane, and inside this lane we have a pitch ratio, FM operator, and its own amp envelope. All other nodes are quite similar. Now I'm going to build FM patch from scratch so you can understand how it works. Let's initialize our patch, and I'm going to insert a lane with instrument preset, and I'll set the number of voices to 4. We can just collapse this, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a FM operator because I want to give you a quick refresher of how FM operator works and what it is. And I'll insert an amp envelope, set the level to 100, and if I play a note, I'll disable the Mela MIDI here. We're just hearing a sine wave. Of course, if we want to make it richer, we can use its feedback. But its main power comes from when it's combined with another FM operator. So if I duplicate this, now this FM operator's sinusoid, which is a carrier, is being modulated by its input, in other words, by the output of the first FM operator. And this is what it sounds like. And I'm gonna play, and you'll hear what that sounds like, and I'll adjust the intensity to see how the sound evolves. So this intensity is just the modulation amount with which the internal carrier sinusoid is modulated. Another thing we can do, of course, we can insert a pitch ratio module. when there's a ratio between two operators, that gives us even a richer sound. As you can see, you can already create very simple FM patches this way. But once you combine it with Matrix, things get much more interesting. So I'm going to use the nesting feature to nest the first FM operator in Matrix. And then I'm going to drag this other operator and insert it as a second node. So now our FM operators are inserted as nodes. Now, if I also want to use this a pitch ratio, if I just insert it, it will just insert it as another submodule. And that's not what I want. So what I can do is I can nest this inside a lane. And so now the submodule, the first submodule is a lane. And inside the lane, I can put as many modules as I like in a series. So I can now drag a pitch ratio. And now if I play a note, we will only hear B. We're only hearing this sinusoid, and we're not hearing A. Now, one thing that's worth mentioning is that all the submodules are receiving the same polyphonic information, such as note on, note off, note velocity, etc. That's why when I play a note, this FM operator knows which note to play. And A is receiving the same thing, but the way Matrix works is the audio output always comes from the last node. But I can also take the audio output from A and direct it to B as an input. So if I increase this, I'll play a note and I'll increase this intensity here. So now A is modulating B. I can also make B modulate E using this feedback. Okay, so we have a very simple patch here. But another interesting thing is that NFM, each of those operators in NFM had independent envelopes, and that's what made it really interesting. So what I'll do is I can actually drag this amp envelope inside here. And then I'll just call this operator, give this a proper name, and maybe I'll just reset this to 1. Then I'll delete this B. And just to make life easier, I'll just duplicate this lane, which is called operator, and it will just create new submodules. So now I have 4 operators. I can set the different ratios to make things interesting. So as a reminder, what ratio does is that it takes input pitch and then multiplies it by this number. So this one is like 6 times the frequency of the input node. This one will be 4 times. We can do like 3 here. And another thing is that we can just have different envelopes for each operator to keep things interesting. Yeah, so let's try that, something like that. And finally D here, again, let's make it a bit longer. And then I can just put different modulations amounts here. I can just play a note and make adjustments just to hear how sound evolves. So now we have, so what happens now is that we have a bunch of modulation values here. A is modulating B, but it's also modulating C and D here. These are the amounts. B is modulating C and D, C is modulating D, and we also have D modulating B, and C is modulating A, and B is modulating A. So these are all feedback modulation. These are all feed-forward modulations. And the output comes from a D submodule. But you may want to have outputs coming from A, B, and C as well. So in that case, what you can do, you can add another node. I can add a level or a volume, for example. Volume is nice because I can control overall volume. And then I can set, so now what happens is that sound is coming from E. So if I play note, we're not hearing anything. But if I set different values here, what we're getting is like we're getting output from A, B, and C, and D being sent to E. Again, you can make adjustments as you play notes to see how it sounds. This is you have to really experiment to get like really interesting sounds. There are some rules with FM. If you create FM patches before, there are some rules you can apply, like certain ratios to create like a piano-like sound or a bell-like sound, and you can follow those rules as a starting point, but then you can just experiment and you can get really interesting stuff. Of course, you're not limited to just FM modulations. You can insert a VA oscillator and have like combined with some of the ring modulation in there. Again, I'll mention that you can actually create other types of effects. For example, a comb filter, or you can create a multi-tap delay effect with feedback. And there are a lot of different ways you can use this Matrix module. And obviously in this video, I can cover all the different cases. And even with this explanation, I know I went really fast. And if you're new to Mela, this video assumes that you have some background knowledge how pitch ratio, how operators work, how amp envelope works, etc. So if you found any of this a bit confusing or you have questions, don't hesitate to leave a comment or send me an email directly. I'm happy to answer all the questions or even create a dedicated video, dedicated tutorial on a certain topic. I'm going to finish here and then might create a follow-up videos. One last thing, there are also more features in Mela 7.13 update, so be sure to check out the changelog to see all the details. Okay, and finally, let's see what this sounds like.